All right, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the 2022 Grantees Position for Success Seminar Series as hosted by the Georgia Rural Health Innovation Center here at Mercer University School of Medicine. I am Dr. Kedrick Williams and serve as your facilitator for this GPS seminar series. On today, the seminar for today will be titled Building Beneficial Budgets. And we are privileged to have one of our very own from Mercer University School of Business, Dr. Miriam Kesby-Agnoli. She earned her doctorate in economics from the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill and her master's in economics from Vanderbilt University. Before joining Mercer, just some years ago, she served as a faculty member at the Terry College of Business at the University of Georgia. And before returning to academia, she worked as a research economist and assistant policy advisor at the Federal Reserve Bank of Atlanta for 15 years. She is a native of Peru and has had several work experience opportunities in her home country. Here at Mercer University, Dr. Kesby-Agnoli teaches courses in economics and business analytics. Her research fields are international economics, open macroeconomics, and economic development. Her current research interests include the economic impact of immigration, small business financing, unemployment and underemployment, and the impact of financial architecture on community and economic development. Additionally, she finds great gratitude in teaching the Lean Six Sigma courses, which is where I met her on last year as one of my instructors. And she certainly values putting special emphasis on economic development and the use of Excel features for programmatic implementation and evaluation. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen to allow her to share hers, and we'll go right into the presentation by Dr. Miriam Kesby-Agnoli.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Kedrick, for your introduction, and good morning. Yes, the presentation today will be on building beneficial budgets. And my outline for today is a brief review of the goals and requirements of the grant, just because, our budget will depend on the requirements and the goals that we are going to have. And then after that, I am going to use some tools from Lean Six Sigma and regarding how to define the purpose of your grant application, how to determine the needs to support your grant application, and after that, how to document. Then in that sense, I am going to borrow many techniques and concepts from the Lean Six Sigma world. And please, this is work and this is a course that I teach with my colleague, Eric Cushins from Berry College. He's a faculty member at Berry College. But first of all, let's review the goals and requirements of the SOCID grant. And just in case, the goals and it's important because every time that you are thinking about submitting your application for a grant, you need to be aware that your goals have to be in sync with the goals of the program. Then that's why I'm reviewing this. Then the first one is provide funding for innovative projects addressing the health needs of rural communities in Georgia. Well, then that is the one of the goals. The second is provide support to new and less experienced grantees to build their skill set and ability to identify, secure, and manage grants. And finally, develop a library of projects, best practices, and strategies that can be applied and adapted to new communities. And please, given that Kedrick is the director of the program, feel free, Kedrick, to interact and make any comments or suggestions regarding, the program and any other tool. Then those are the goals. please keep them in mind when you start thinking about your grant proposal. Also, what are I'm bringing here the funding categories with the sole objective that you need to start thinking, okay, how much am I going to get? And that is going to also, you're going to see on your budget, and what are the requirements, depending on the tier award, the grant that you are going to get, the amount of it. Then, for example, we have tier one awards when they are small projects. They are only up to $5,000, and those are regarded as purchases. Do not, they cannot hire personnel, and in this case, yes, and support documents are important, but not, you don't need letters of support. The second tier is a longer period, it's within a year, from 3 to 9 months, and it might involve a project with multiple phases. And that is something that I would like to talk later on, as well as, once again, it could cover material training, contracted services, different from tier one. And in tier three is more than $10,000, and these are definitely longer than 1 year. Projects that will take longer than 1 year, and it should demonstrate impact in the community. It should demonstrate a footprint, right? Then, and in this case, yes, you can hire personnel. You can have contractual services as well, and the application definitely is deeper, and it should show different processes, etc. Therefore, now, when I talk about the requirements, you need to include an executive summary, the organizational view of your of the institution that you are presenting from, and then project goals and purpose, outputs and indicators, activities and methodology, team composition, budget, and letters of support. Those are the requirements. For this presentation, I am going to concentrate on goals and purpose, and outputs and indicators, how to identify those, how can we reach those in order to support our budget. That is the reason that I am concentrating on those two items, because those are the ones that you are going to, and also activities and methodology, but all those parts of your project, has to, your explanation from those parts have to be also reflected in the budget, right? It's going to affect your budget, right? And that's what I am bringing the requirements here. Then the first question is, define the purpose of your grant application, right? And even though many people will think, oh yeah, I need, I would like to apply for a grant because I have, this purpose for this money. Sometimes it's not that easy, especially because you need to have a project, a project that that it has to be linked with the overall business objectives, right? That has to be a link of your project, what the objectives of your institution. You need to explain why there is a need for the organization to undertake the project. Okay, to undertake a project, and how it will support the organizational objective. What is the link? In fact, what is the link with the mission statement of your organization? And in this case, I am bringing these questions, right, that might help you to enunciate the project and the definition of your project. For example, why is the project worth doing? Many times it's you said, oh, this project is very important, but the question is very specific. Why? Then with this, you can justify, the resources necessary to engage in the project. Then all these questions are going to support your budget. Then that's why I am bringing those. Then why is it important to customers? Then in this case, before you answer why, it's important also in your narrative, and you're going to see at the end, it's like you need to, when you explain the organization, you need to say, mention who your customers are. How do you relate with them? What do they get from you? And therefore, with that already said, then why is this project important to your customers? It's very important. Also, if it is why it is important to the business, right? To the organization. Why? How is it going to improve certain conditions? It's going to improve their performance. It's going to improve the delivery of their services, etc. Also, why it's important to employees? Is it going to create a better atmosphere for work, better communication, better satisfaction for employees. Also, can you see how I'm going through their customers, the organization, your employees, and now the time frame. Why is it important to do it now? Why not tomorrow, in next year? Why it has to be now? Why? Then those questions is going to help you to enunciate the importance of your project. Not only the project, but you can set it up in such a way that people will say, yes, this project is relevant, is important. Also, another way to think about it is, what are the consequences of not doing the project now? Many times you think, oh, why is it important to do it now? If you can't have hard time to do it, it's like, what if there is an absence of this project? What if there is no such a project like yours? Then that is another question that you might want to answer, to see how important the project is. And in once again, and I am going back to my organization. How does it fit your project with the operational initiatives and targets? Then it has to be an intrinsic part of the organization. With all this, the 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 institution that offers the grant, it will make sense that everything is intertwined, right? And that the project will have enough support to be successful with the support of the grant. Then one of the questions is, no, one of the examples, sorry, is, for example, here this says, by reducing the average transaction length, the system would be able to improve the speed of transaction resolution and assist the end users in fastest possible manner. This will not only help in achieving client targets, but also increase end user satisfaction score by offering lesser turnaround time. Then in this case, what we are doing is we are trying to have a project that is going to help us in reducing the time, the length of a transaction. No? Then we are here, they said, okay, this is what we want to do. Now, why? Why do we want to do this? Because it's going to be faster, yes, and it's going to resolve faster as well. And what does it mean in terms of your customers? It's going to be a greater satisfaction for my customers. It's going to be even for our special clients, it will be also very beneficial. Then I have a double whammy, because I can have not only target my special customers, but also, or clients, but also all my end user satisfaction. Then can you see how in this statement I am dealing with all those questions, and of what I'm going to do with my project. Therefore, now another way to define the problem, because you are trying to talk about your project. Okay, but what is the project trying to address? No, and you have seen, I am not saying solve yet. what is trying to address, then many times you would like to mention, what the problem is. Have you realized I am not talking about project, I'm talking about problem. Then in this case, I will say, what is the pain? Where is it hurting? You know, is it current? How long has it been? What is the state of the pain? And please, in this case, I'm talking about pain, hurting, and the time framework and the length of the pain. It's just simply thinking of, okay, there is this absence, why there is a problem, how long does it take, where is where is creating chaos, where is creating, inefficiencies, where is creating delays. That is what I'm trying to say. That is in order to um, address the problem. We are enunciating the problem. And in this case, please, have you realized that I am not talking about the cause? I'm not blaming anybody, and I am not including a solution. Okay, I'm just talking only about the problem. Then in this case, for example, I talk about the statement of the problem, and I said in the last 3 months, 12% of our customers are late by over 45 days in paying their bills. This represents 20% of our outstanding receivables and negatively affects our operating cash flow. Then have you realized how you are stating your problem, right? Is when, the last 3 months, what is the delay, in paying the bills? How much does it affect you? 20% of the receivables, and what is the consequence? Then, in that sense, it's very important that we not only we are talking about the project, but we have to very, very specific to define our problem. Also, what now that you have, your problem, what kind of goal do you want? What it has to be your goal with that project. And in this case, I would suggest that when you present your goal statement, you have to start with a verb. Do not show a cause or a solution. That is not, and has a deadline, and has an actionable, and sets the focus. Okay. Of course, your goal statement should be SMART: specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time bound. Right. Those are the characteristics of a good goal statement. Then, for example, in this case, it will be to reduce the percentage of late payments to 15% in next 3 months, give tangible savings of $500,000 per year. Can you see? That is your goal. We are not saying just how, okay? But that's what the goal of the project will be. Then the goal statement. You want to reduce late payments. You want to set how much you want to reduce it, in what time period, and for what savings. Okay. Then now that you are having, your goal, your project, then can you determine the funding needs to support your grant application? Then in this case, I was thinking, okay, how can I start, determine what do I need in my project? Go is the basic. And what I was thinking is, look at the process, right? You need to look at the process. Why is this problem? And then let's start thinking about, what do I need to solve this problem, right? And that will be the core of the project. And in order to see what is going to be solving this project, you are going to start having all your list of materials, and then after that, how much it costs. But that's what you need to do first, is to start having, look at the process and look at why are you having that problem, right? And in this case, I'm going to look for two techniques. I'm going to show two techniques once again that I borrow from Lean Six Sigma. And what I do is the 5 whys and the fishbone diagram. And I hope that you enjoy them, because they are five whys. I don't know if when you were, do you remember when you were a child? Those were the five whys that you were asking to your parents every time that you wanted to know, something, right? Why, right? That's and then you will get to the root of the problem. The fishbone diagram is another way to think about that. Therefore, um, then this is a way to start thinking about how to solve your problem, right? And that's how you are going to start thinking about your financing needs. For example, in this case, there is an electrical mixer, and I know that it is a little bit different, than a problem, but let's be very specific. And what we see is that we see a mixer, that stopped working, right? The mixer stopped working, and there are two possibilities, right? Mechanical failure, electrical failure. And of course, this is the technical part, right? And then the electrical failure could be because there is a low resistance or a high current draw. And then what you see is that it stopped because there was an overload. But is that the real problem? Is that the real cause? What is going on? Why this mixer stopped working? Now you can call the technician and fix it. They can fix it. They can change the plug, change the cord, or whatever they make it. And but if that is not the real problem, the mixer will continue stop working. Don't then in that sense, that's one not addressing the problem, not addressing the root of the problem, might create a continuation of the same episode, without solving it. Then let's look at the whys. Okay. And then in this case, we have that electronic mixer stop working. No? Then why? Well, the motor powering the mixer won't run. No? Then why? Well, a fuse broke. You can start looking at that. No? And why the fuse broke? Well, the motor drew too much current. And why the motor was drawing too much current? It was working too hard. Well, the motor was overload. And then the question is, why? The material being mixed had a higher weight than the design limit. Then was a fault of the mixer, or it was a problem with the person that was putting too much stuff in the mixer? If you, once again, if you stop and said, no, the mixer is broken, well, you're going to buy another mixer and you're going to keep having the same problem. And what is the problem is that we are not taking, we are not looking at the proper weight limits of the mixing load. I must confess, this is the problem that I have with my child. That's why this is a very true example, because he keeps doing this. He keeps making all these smoothies, and yes, he overloads that. He goes beyond that line, right? And in that's that of the cup, right? In that sense, I know that my mixer is going to break. And what I did, no, I put specific instructions and said, no, you have to do it like this, right? I train my personnel. Then that is addressing the problem. Maybe in this case, your budget should include training of your personnel, should include instructions posted in the right place, right? Training sessions, as I mentioned before. Can you see? With that, we will be solving the problem of the overload, not buying another mixer. And said, but also asking whys, right? Then we are going into the problem. That is one. The other is that with this, in the budget, you have to bring a narrative. You have to explain why, and I'm sorry, I'm using the same word. Why are you requesting these parts? Well, you can say that you have got into that conclusion by this exercise, right? And then we have done this, brainstorming session when we start asking why several times, and we go to the root of the problem, right? Then with this kind of narrative, you can support your budget as well. And the budget has that now includes that narrative. The second way to get into the root of the problem, because the first one was very simple, I do understand is my why, but believe me, it's very effective. The second way to look at this is a fishbone diagram. And once again, I am borrowing from Lean Six Sigma. And in this case, we do identify the root of the problem. We are start looking at where are the different, the different areas of concern. And why we call it a fishbone diagram? First of all, because I just simply wanted to mention the head of the fish is the problem that we have. In this case, the electronic mixer stopped working, and the bones of the fish, the bones of the fish, as you can see, are the different, set of factors, a different set of conditions that I might have contributed to our problem, And in this case, our set of conditions includes the environment, people, equipment and materials, and procedure. Then in that sense, that's why it could include more, other bones such as nature, management, whatever set of conditions you want. But with that, you are trying to figure out, right, what is wrong with the mixer. Then in this case, in the environment, where the mixer is located, is it damp? Does it have high humidity? And just in case, there could be other bones here if you think that there are other conditions. Also, you have people, workers, right? Lacks of training. Does not have full focus? There are other things that you are doing at the same time. Um, and their equipment and materials. Mixed materials is too dense. Motor is broken. How is everything? Your supplies, for example, in this case. Then in this, it's very important that you can include that. On the other hand, is procedure, right? No limitations to mixing load, no procedure to check load, instructions. How are they doing things? That's the other. Then now, how is this going to help you for your budget? Well, once that you start having, this this issue, this problem, this project that you want, and you have the different components, then you can start addressing the different parts that you need to, that might represent a cost for you. And that those parts, those areas, should be included in the budget. And as you are going to see, the budget indirectly includes all these areas as well. No, then this is a way that it shows you how you can um, uh, break your problem in little pieces, because that is one of the most important things, is that you break your problem in a small portions and start looking at what from those small portions, what are they going, how they're going to impact your costs, your expenses, and how you can include it in your budget. No, then that's how I was thinking about in the use of the fishbone diagram, and how you can look at the analysis of the process of your problem, or any activity that you would like to do. You can also set it apart in different pieces in order to explain, And once again, this is a kind of analysis that you can include in your budget as well, because that means that you have been thinking through deeply about how to address the different issues in your budget, right? And that's the another tool that I thought that it will be very interesting and very helpful and very easy. Please don't do it. You can do it in a piece of paper and work it out. There is not nothing specific on this, and then you can explain it, in your narrative. You don't need this graph, but if you do, please do it. Then now, this is something that I was thinking, especially when you have projects that are a little bit more complex. You are having, for example, you are going for grants of 10,000 or more, and you are having several ideas, several projects in mind. How can you hone on one project, right? How can you choose one project? And I am giving you a set, like a checklist of how to choose your project, and then you can have like a score list, a score that and see which projects are more aligned, with who has more checks according to these questions than others, and maybe those are the ones that you should be choosing at. But for example, in this case is, strategic. Does the project align with the top level business strategy? Chronic is the problem. Once again, chronic. Has it been around for a long time? Significant. Has the problem resulted in a lot of money or time spent in rework or waste? Psych, how big is the problem? How can the problem be measured? Right? Measure of potential impact. If nothing is done, as I meant, what is the impact? What if we don't address this problem? How is it going to be? And once again, when we start thinking about measures here, then you are going to see, it's important that we start thinking about how can we measure um, is all this impact? How can we measure, the effects that this problem might have, right? Urgency. How does it need? How soon does it need to be fixed? Risk. What if nothing is done? What is the risk that may provide? And also potential resistance to change. And many times you could have the best project in the world, but many times you are going to find management, employees, or even customers that resist to change, right? Because they don't know alternatives. Then what is that going to cost you? How you are going to address the convincing, the gathering of willingness for change, sure winner. Is this project to be easy to accomplish? And those are pretty much the ones that are the winners. And will these the returns be great and measurable? Is there data that can be measured from this project? And a scope, are there boundaries can be set for this project? Then very important that you understand. And the more that you can answer, and these questions will help you in the narrative of your budget as well. Then that's it's important that you understand, and the more that you can answer these questions, they will be much better, for your project. Now, document and support your grant application with budget and information. In this case, now what I have done is, first we define the project, right? We start looking at the problem, and then after that, looking at the goal. That was in the first one. The second one is, how can we identify the different parts, that are involved in our project? That's what we were doing with the whys, and the 5 whys, and we were doing with the fishbone diagram. Now, how can we build our budget? And once again, and this is from the Department of Justice, a complete, well thought out budget serves to reinforce your credibility and increase the likelihood of your proposal being funded. And that's true. The more that you can show that you have worked on the budget, that you have thought about it, and that you can support the needs, the needs of this project and all the parts, needing all these different parts of the project, the better it's going to be. Then as I said, how specific and detailed the budget will depend on the nature of your project. Definitely. As we have seen that we have three different tiers, um, each one, will require a different budget. The first tier will require a simpler budget, as we are going to see, and the tier three, for example, that requires 10,000, it will require a budget that might go for several years, and I'm going to show you a little bit about that. But I just wanted to mention, do not, if you are in tier one, there might be places, ideas or inputs that are not going to be included in the budget that you have. Then, however, it's very important that your budget to be reasonable. That is very important. Also, that it demonstrates how the funds are going to be used. Also, it has to be concrete, and it has to be specific in its estimates. Um, Realistic, and in that case, you have to estimate the cost as accurately as possible. You can provide ranges, right, of a maximum and minimum if you want, instead of the average, or the average with the ranges of maximum and minimum when you are thinking about cost of materials, for example, especially now that we are having um, a increase in inflation. Then in that case, it's important that you need to include this kind of fluctuation in prices. No? And I will mention that you can actually project, what might happen in this year with respect to prices, but you need to explain your assumptions. You need to explain how you prepared your budget, and please follow the requirements and instructions of the grant. Very important. I have seen many people that they prepare and they miss some items just simply because they didn't look at the requirements and the instructions of the grant. Then also, this is what I meant with the projects, and I'm going to move with this. This is the Excel, an example that you can find in the website for the grant program. And in this case, as you can see, this was you can find like the name of the proposed project, the contact person, and how much you are requesting the grant amount. And uh, what you have here, right, is an Excel file that shows your items and materials, right, and the description, as well as cost and quantity, and you have the amounts. Then you have your notes, right? What is all that? As well as you have items and materials, activity, logistics, and equipment, like a rental space or activity equipment in this case, right? Then what I would say is that depending on the type of grant, you might include in for cost of personnel. I think that you only can do that in tier three. Also, if there are any kind of travel expenses, you need to be very, you can include that as well as transportation. Because one of the questions that I had, for example, here in activity pamphlets is design and printed brochures to be distributed to community members at the rural county event given date 2021, and the cost was 0.85 and the quantity was 145. And why, right? Why these notes, these comments, you can start including, right, your narrative and what is going on there, or another additional page talking about how you implemented your budget. Now, here it says large notepad, ink pen, pencil, activity registration paper, and the cost is $4. Um, and in this case, it says all items per activity attendee. If here they to put it like that. It seemed to me that everything was a package. But also, what in order for clarity, you might want to do it, is the item by item in order to show how much it's going to be, like how much was the notepad or the ink pen, the pencil. You know, this activity registration paperwork, was that printed or not? Then it's very important that you start, showing your the different parts and how much it costs, especially because the amount is the one that is the biggest among all three amounts that are shown here, right? Then also the rental fee to use the community room for 3 times, that is $50, and the quantity is 3. Then in that sense, it's important that you include all your um, rental. One thing that I was wondering, for example, if they are larger items, are there transportation fees? It's important that you are, or if you are going to the event, will there be transportation of the organizers? Will that be included? No? Those kind of things. Are these uh, uh, are there, and not here, and we are not talking about here, but there could be some items that you will buy. Let's say the microphone and speaker system, right? You are going to buy that, and you are going to use it for the next event. No, then in that sense, well, how much will that be for this budget? And then you have to start thinking is, what is the maintenance of that? What is, does it require the warranty, etc. And then all those items, it's important that you include it in your budget, right? And please, it's important because that requires that things that you are thinking of a sustainable program, right? You are thinking of the future. And that's why I would highly recommend that you think about it. And this is the way, that's that you get all this information from an analysis of the process. And once you have that, you can start making your list and cost. Also, if there are any estimates, right, it's important that you can include it in the description. It's if you are thinking that there might be an increase in price if it is not at the after the grant is done. It's very important that you understand that as well, because the price could be now one price, for example, gasoline, and then what is the probability of the price later on, like at the end of the year, if the event comes in the event of the year. Now you can ask me, where am I going to get that number? Well, I can tell you the Federal Reserve Board provides projections, and those are projections from the government. Therefore, I am pretty sure that any organization can use those projections in order to look at increases in inflation, for example. Or the Bureau of Labor Statistics has inflation, although the projections come from the Federal Reserve Board. Okay, then if anybody interested, I can provide that information as well. Um, then, as I said, you need to show clearly how costs are determined. That you have to bring the necessary documentation. Will the grant complement other funds also for projects, or will be the only support for the project? What about, as I mentioned, the sustainability of the project? And this is for larger, right? If you receive a larger grant, then it's supposed, and according to the requirements, it means to have a significant impact in the community. When we talk about the impact, we are going to see, how is that going to be? How long will that last? How will continue? And and as I said, do not forget to include projections for operating and maintaining facilities and equipment. Okay, then is the other supportive information, just to finish. This is what I use as a data measurement plan, because we need to gather information And this is kind of my cheat sheet on how I'm going to get my information, and in this case, my information for my budget. Then in this, I like this because the first thing is it asks me, what do you want to improve? What are your targets, the goals for improvement in this case? Because once again, I'm borrowing this from a Lean Six Sigma, and this is a good way to start thinking about, my goal is to improve this by this much, my percentage with this time period. Okay. Then many times if you do that, that provides or gives you a good setting to define a goal, right? To goal. Also, they are going to be asking you what specific measures. And this is something that I have learned, is that the audience, stakeholders especially, they are more interested when they have specific measures. Yes, I want to improve by 15%, or I want to reduce, any trouble, any delays by 10%. Those are my outcome measures. How is going to be measured, how is going to be after the project is done. And then after that, the process measures is, what do I need to do in order to achieve that measure? Do I have to increase personnel? Do I have to buy more materials? Do I have to, you know, create more training, right? Create more training materials. Then those are the kind of things that are important. Finally, um, you have, how am I going to collect this? And this is more into, if you have a group of people that are collecting information, especially for your budget. And it's important always to have one person that collects everything and that knows. And how often will the data be collected? What specific data sources, as I said, and they have to be reliable. If you want like have estimates, projections, as I said, for example, the Federal Reserve Board provides these kind of projections for inflation, for example, and also agree what it has to be included and excluded. And this is in your budget, as well as how will this data be collected, and that is that's important, because sometimes, especially when you work with other team members, some people think in certain units, some people think in Celsius, some people think in Fahrenheit, or some people think in kilometers, and some people think in miles. Believe me, that's there are many ways to think data or information. Then it's important that at least you agree on that. It has to be monthly or it has to be weekly. Then that's the kind of questions that you have for data collection. But that is my last slide is just, I wanted to mention is this is a strategy map. It's when everything was put together, and I have chosen one for a hospital. And please, this is only for educational purposes. And the goal, for example, the mission statement is to care for our patients and their families as they were our own. But the purpose statement, right, is providing unparalleled clinical care to patients, conducting cutting edge research to eradicate disorders, and developing advanced skills in tomorrow's medical specialists. And that is the purpose statement. And can you see each part? This is another way that you start thinking about your project, is what does your customer want? Then in that sense, this is the area, what does your customer want? What your stakeholder want? Grow volume, grow revenue, manage your cost, right? And how can you do it? How can you accomplish your purpose? Satisfying the customer perspective and satisfying your stakeholders is, how are you going to improve access for patients? How are you going to improve or continue research and teaching excellence? And how you are going to make sure that you have quality patient care? And then Finally, is in your long-term goals. And, how are you going to think about the long term? Is how are you going to retain and recruit talented, skilled labor force, as well as making teams accountable and set expectations? And how are you going to invest in your infrastructure? Then, can you see this is a plan? And please, it's not like the project that you are going to have, but a project can fit in this, can be one of the areas that will fit. And then you have the big idea, you see how it works, and then how it will fit in there. Okay, then that is might help you in thinking about a project that will, be the basis for your grant application. Then with this, I finish my presentation. Thank you very much for your attention. And if there are any questions, please feel free.
Thank you so much, Dr. Miriam. Does anyone have any questions? Any questions, any comments?
If anybody would like to have how to do the source for projections, especially for budgets and all that, I can give it to Kedrick. That I will be very happy to share. That is always a website where you can find the projections on inflation, on economic growth, everything, is especially for your budgets. If you are, and I'm mentioning this, especially for inflation, if you are thinking after, what might happen with prices afterwards. If you are thinking about materials or gasoline prices or something like that.
So I have just one question. I came in a little late, but you mentioned that the grant size amount is based on the tier amount, so that budget should fall within that category also?
Yes, that's right. Okay. That's right, because as you can see in tier one, the budget can be very simple, and as you can see, it's up to $5,000. Therefore, and you cannot, for example, it cannot be spent on salaries, but it can be spent on other items. In tier two, there are other items that you can include in your budget. In tier three, for $10,000 or more, the expected budget is a little bit, it wouldn't be for 1 year, it will be for 2 or 3 years. That's what I would think, just to show sustainability. And please, I'm not saying that for 2, 3 years you are going to ask for $10,000. Is that, yes, I'm spending $10,000 now, but or $8,000 now, and the next $2,000 are going to be in maintenance and et cetera, et cetera. That's how it's going to be.
Okay, well, if there's no further questions, I just want to again say thank you to Dr. Miriam for her wonderful presentation and all of the content and information that she shared with us. We certainly greatly appreciate it and value your time with us today.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for having me. Thank you.
Absolutely. So just very quickly, I just want to share an announcement. If I can get to the next screen. Okay. In our research, we identified an organization that features the Rural Healthcare Program, and they fund 2 types of services. The first being voice and data, and the second being broadband for your internet use. And you'll see information here at the bottom of the screen about both of them and the discount rates that they provide. We provided the website link here so that you can visit this site in your leisure. It's a step-by-step process in which to know if your respective organization is eligible to apply and receive funding. And they also will be hosting 2 webinars upcoming, one at the end of this month and one mid-May. So certainly if you're interested, please visit this website and look them up and review the information. And also following today's seminar, we will provide this link by email to everyone as well. And then in the coming days, the recording of this seminar will be placed on our website, and we'll share updates about that with you as well. But anytime that we get information such as this, we definitely want to share it with you. Okay. And then lastly, but also importantly, we want to just remind you that we have 4 more seminars in this GPS seminar series. Next month's seminar for the month of May will highlight searching for suitable grants. In June, highlighting proposal planning and design. In July, highlighting engaging communities with enthusiastic communication. And then we'll conclude the seminar series in August with a session on activity assessment amidst implementation. So again, thank you so much to each of you for taking the time out today to participate in this seminar series and learn all about building beneficial budgets with Dr. Miriam Kesby Agnoli. Thank you all so much, and you all have a great day.